right. We're on. All right, go ahead and say hi in the comments if you're on. See a couple of people jumping on. We'll give it a minute, get everybody's attention. And we're jumping up in a hurry. What's up, Brandy? Good to see you. Hi, Laura. Hi, Charlotte. Good to see Freedom Hills on here. All right. Chris Barlow, good to see you. All right, awesome. We got a bunch of people jumping on. You can tell it's been a little while. All right, so we'll go ahead and jump off and get started. Thanks everybody for joining. As usual, we'll post this up to YouTube when we're done. So I want to run down a couple of the usual things we would hit kind of quickly here, because I want to leave a little bit of time to talk about one of our big new initiatives that we're going to undertake here in a couple of weeks. And then, of course, want to leave time for Q&A at the end here. So we're gonna jump right off with COVID, just because really that's how we started all this. So just a quick summary on that and where we're at. Lots changed since the last time I was on here talking about COVID. We've turned it into a pretty solid political football right now, which, if you're an Eagles fan, it's the only good football that's getting played right now. So I'm going to avoid all the politics, unless somebody wants to bring something up in the chat thread later, and everybody knows I don't shy away from a good discussion. But here's what I will say. For a good portion of this summer, every day I get the report from the Ocean County Health Department. It tells us about positive cases in town and anybody who's cleared the list. I can tell you that through a good stretch of the summer, it was long stretches. I mean, a week plus, that we would see no positives. Every day it would be no new cases, 7 removals, no new cases, 2 removals, no new cases. Every now and again we'd pop a case. So really good stretch through summer. Noticed a couple weeks ago, 1 new case, then 2 new cases, then like every day we're getting a case. Now the last probably 2 weeks, seeing numbers reminiscent of where we were back in April, May, right? So 4 new cases, 6 new cases. Certainly nothing to cause alarm. But when we look at Ocean County's numbers and we look at the daily cases, which they publish at a rate per 100,000, Ocean County has the largest number of daily new cases in the state of New Jersey as of today. State average is 5.1 cases per day per 100,000. We're sitting in Ocean County right now at 12.8 cases, so more than double what the state average is. If you go all the way back through the numbers to when we started, the last time we were at that high of a number of 12.8 per 100,000 new cases a day was when we were on our way down in May. It was May 14th was the last time we were here numbers wise. So again, overall in town, everybody's doing a great job. We have had 0 issues with masks. We've had 0 issues with our businesses. Everybody's been patronizing the businesses, the outdoor dining. We have had 0 issues. Town's been doing great. But that's where we are. Everybody expected a bit of a spike in the fall. No reason to think that we're not going to have that happen. So we just want to keep doing what we're doing. On the police department front, we've still been doing really well here, sticking with our same protocols. We still have not had a single officer test positive going all the way back to the start of this thing. So we're going to continue just with our protocols here. Keep doing things the way we've been doing them. It's been working out great, and we'll talk about that with the crime rate coming up here in a little bit. That's where we're at with COVID. So any questions on that, we can tackle those at the Q&A at the end. So let me segue into the crime rate. So UCR, which is the Uniform Crime Report that the state publishes, it's always on a delay when they tabulate the year. So they just released the numbers for 2019. So you remember in 2018, we were very proud of the fact Barnegat had the lowest crime rate in Ocean County. That's a big deal, especially a town that when I started here historically had a crime rate 5 and 6 times higher than that, and we were never anywhere near the lowest crime rate in Ocean County. So 2019's UCR posted, and once again, we're in that same space. When you take all towns like us and even half our size, 10,000 residents and up, which is all your major towns in Ocean County, Stafford, Little Egg, Manchester, Toms River, Brick, Lakewood, Beechwood, anybody 10,000 and up, Barnegat still has for 2019 the lowest crime rate in Ocean County, which is awesome. So again, hats off to the women and men who were the boots on the ground doing the hard job here. They continue to do great work. They've done great work all the way through COVID. When everybody else kind of was in full mitigation mode, we were one of the first agencies. We were really the first agency around here that got back to just doing all our regular police work, but doing it in a safer way with a lot of PPE, and all those protocols we put in place then have served us well, both on a safety front here and on a crime front. And of course, a big part of that is the support that we get from the community. And how the community continues to work with us, and you continue to work with us, helping us out with information, identifying suspects when we post that stuff on Facebook. So a good full team effort that again gives us something that everybody should be proud of, which is that we have a town that's got the lowest crime rate anywhere around here, and that's truly a big deal. So because that's at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. So great work there by all the police officers here. I want to use that to segue into staffing really quickly. If you didn't see, we were able to hire a new officer at last month's meeting, Joe Perugini. Great candidate, and he is already off in the Ocean County Police Academy that just started up. He's got a long 5 months ahead of him here, a little more than that. But he's doing great up there, and I'm going to be recommending additional hires for the meeting coming up. And the reason we're doing that is, if you remember, I've talked about this before. When you look at the data here, historically, 2 officers per 1,000 is the sweet spot for us as a floor. We like to be a little bit above that, and what we find historically is when we go below 2 officers per 1,000, the crime rate goes up, and when we're above 2 officers per 1,000, the crime rate goes down. You can watch all the way back to the 1990s, and those numbers hold. You've heard me say it before, when we had the lowest rates we've ever had, down around 1.3, 1.4 officers per 1,000. We had the highest crime rates this town has ever seen since it's had a police department, and in 2015, when we had the highest number of officers per 1,000, we peaked at about 2.3. Not coincidentally, in 2016, we saw the lowest crime rate the town had ever seen. So we've had some attrition here, officers retiring, and with another retirement coming up here in the next couple of months, that would have put us down at 47 officers. And at 47 officers, that would put us just under that 2 officer per 1,000 line, put us down at about 1.95. So we want to make sure we stay above that line so we keep the agency properly staffed. By adding the officers the officer that we just added, and the officers that I'm asking the committee to consider an add, will bring us back up to 51. Historically, most officers we've had is 52. Again, that was probably about 5 years ago now. So that would put us at 51. Sorry, I left my radio on. That would put us at 51, which would put us just over 2 officers per 1,000, put us about 2.1 officers per 1,000. So the reason that's so important is because it allows us to staff the agency properly. So we have a good resource commitment in the crime reduction unit, in crew. That unit makes an outsized impact on high-value crimes in this town, right? They deal with the drug offenses, the drug dealers, transient gang members. They're the ones that are on the front lines on that. And if we don't have enough officers, we can't properly staff that unit. So that's really important. At the same time, we answer a lot of calls here. A lot of calls in the neighborhood of 18, 20,000 calls a year, depending on the year. We slowed down a little bit the COVID months back in the spring, but we were definitely back to typical levels this summer, and we need proper staffing so that those squads have enough officers in them so that when we're getting all the calls for service, yesterday as an example, busy day in 24 hours, they answered 50 calls for service in that 24-hour period, and you know that the overnight hours are slower, so that's a lot of calls compressed into the day, and the officers do a great job handling that. But if we lose staffing and we cut down to where we can't have as many officers in the squads, less officers on the road, longer response times, we're less visible, we're solving less problems, and that sends crime in the wrong direction here. So again, I say it and it sounds cliche, but a big thank you to the committee for continuing to support the department here and making sure that we have the tools and especially the staff that we need to do a good job here. And I think I'm very cognizant of the fact we are an expensive commodity, right? PD is a big piece of the budget, but you get the return on your investment of you have a police department that continues to bring you lowest crime rates in the county. So that's that's a good outcome that we're looking to maintain here. So. Talk about the people who make that happen too. Would be remiss if I did not recognize the town CFO. Tom Lombarski is he's the gatekeeper to the money, and he continuously works with me to work the budget and figure out how to accomplish the things we want to accomplish here and do it within the confines of the budget that has been approved for us. So huge shout out to Tom, and again to Marty Lasella, our administrator, who works with us every day on making sure that we have what we need over here to do a good job and get the job done. So that's where we're at with staffing. So I'm going to use that to segue into our new move. So we talked about, really, this started up before COVID. We talked about, okay, a couple years that we had the lowest crime rate in the county, and where do we go from there, right? We can sit here and pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, that's a great job, and then wait until somebody out-polices us and gets a lower crime rate, or our crime rate goes up here. We are blessed with really good staff here from the newest officers all the way up through the first line supervisors and command officers, and they're just they're not the type of people who are satisfied with the status quo. So what we looked at doing is rolling out what's called the precision policing model here. So I'm going to go over it briefly and kind of explain what it's about. So precision policing has two different components. One is what they call focused enforcement. So we know no matter where we can look in a big city or we can look in a town like Barnegat, and it's a very small percentage of the population that causes a large percentage of the typical crimes and disorder. So we want to focus enforcement on that small percentage that causes the problem, and that's what key units like crew take care of, and what our proactive officers address. At the same time, another big part of precision policing is a concept they call neighborhood policing, which essentially is, getting the officers working in a specific neighborhood so that they can build relationships with the people in that specific neighborhood. So, we have officers out on the road. I know we're not a metropolis here, but it is 40 square miles. We are pushing up towards 25,000 people, and when the officers are out covering all that real estate and answering all the calls they do, it's tough to get down to that hyper-local relationship building. So what we're going to do with this neighborhood policing model is we've broken the town down into 9 geographic areas, basically loosely set up around neighborhoods, around developments, and we're going to assign officers to those neighborhoods, and that's where they're going to work. So the idea is you will know who your neighborhood officers are. They're going to be familiar with the neighborhood, and most importantly, it's someone for you to go to with neighborhood problems, with issues in that hyperlocal area, in that local community. So, if we think about the way problems find the light of day now, one of the ways they come is the way what we're doing right now, right? Facebook. You're frustrated with speeders on the street. You're frustrated with a house that's having a lot of loud parties. You're having some kind of a problem in the neighborhood. you don't really feel like it's important enough maybe to call. You really don't know where to go to get help for it. So what do? We vent on Facebook. And usually one of the command staff members here, or I see it, somebody sees it, and then we'll go ahead and try to address the problem. Or another way we find out about it is you email the committee or somebody in town hall, or maybe you email me. What we want to do is we want to streamline that process. We want you to have officers who are always in your neighborhood, who you know where they are. You have an email that you can contact them so that you can bring those neighborhood issues directly to those officers. And then we're going to empower those officers to go out and solve the problem with you. So, we want to look at things like the quality of life issues. We want to take a look at things when, you see something going on, activity at a house that makes you think maybe there's something going on there that shouldn't be going on. We want to facilitate that information exchange. We want to get the officers more involved in the community. Why do we want to do that? When you look at the studies that are out there, there's one pretty recent, August of 2019, looked at positive non-enforcement contact with police officers. So in other words, when the police officers are out in the community, talking to community members, interacting, but not in an enforcement setting, not in a responding to a call setting, that we get a lot more cooperation with the community, we get a lot more information exchange, we get a lot more support, which is hard to imagine more support than we get from this town, but we do, and it just makes for better policing outcomes. So we're going to roll this out by first posting all of the streets in town, and it was a good segue into talking about speeding. Whenever people would talk about speeding complaints, and I don't understand why we can't, get a radar patrol on our street. They're speeding on our street. Well, we totaled out all the streets as we were breaking this down. We have 550 streets in town, 550. So that's a lot of streets for a what will hopefully be a 51 officer police department to cover. So I'll talk about how we're going to address that though in a minute. So you're going to be able to go to our website. We'll put a link to it on Facebook. We're going to get the information out there through all the traditional channels as well, and you'll be able to see for your street what neighborhood policing zone you're in. Hey, we're a Zone 4 neighborhood. And if you're in Zone 4, you're going to know who those 2 or 3 officers are that are assigned to that zone. And you're going to have a direct email to those officers. So, there's an issue, there's a problem. Now, obviously, emergencies, we're still calling 911, we're still calling the police department number, and, emergency response isn't going to change. But for all these issues that we have that are, typically tied to quality of life issues, those are what we want to address through this neighborhood policing model. So the officers are going to be empowered to get out into the community, get out in the businesses, interact with the business owners, find out what the problems are, and really engage with you as the public to find out what the issue of the day is and go ahead and solve it. So we're going to roll that out October 6th. That gives us plenty of time to try to get the word out to everybody, get all the zones set up in a nice alphabetical list for you. So when you want to participate in that program, you can see which zone you belong to and who the officers are that are assigned to your zone. And like everything else we do around here, this is a precision policing model, which is part of really the larger 21st century policing initiatives that are out there. That's really what the cutting edge agencies are doing out there, and you typically haven't seen it in agencies and communities our size. You see it in cities. It was a big thing that Bill Bratton pushed up in New York City. That was responsible really for the historic low crime rates that the NYPD was able to accomplish working with the community up there. Of course, if we look at New York City right now, we see how quickly that can go away when we get away from that. But that's where we're looking to go. We're going to evaluate it as we get into it, and sure, we're going to have little tweaks and adjustments to the program. But ultimately, it's going to allow us to maintain that low crime rate that we have, but at the same time is going to allow us to interact a lot more with the community, let the officers get to know the neighborhoods better than they do now, because they're just going to have a smaller neighborhood that they're in most of the time, as opposed to getting cycled through districts in the whole 40 square mile town. So, and before I close out, I just want to really say thank you. From the time this whole defunding the police thing started and started getting put on blast in the media, we have been just absolutely inundated with phone calls of support, emails of support from you. People calling and emailing, you know, are they looking to defund your police department? What can we do for you? What do you need? As I'm sure you can figure out from my earlier part of the conversation, we have had nothing but full support from the township committee. You know, there is not even an inkling of talk of any kind of defunding or anything like that around here. The powers that be in town understand that, you know, a well-staffed, a well-trained, a well-equipped police department that has good people is able to police well, police fairly, police equitably, keep the crime rate down, and that's really what everybody in the town benefits from, right? Low crime rates translate into better property values, translate into again a better image for the town, and just better quality of life for everybody who lives here. So. You know, we just had the women's group from Horizons at Barnegat come up yesterday, made individual thank you bags for every officer in the police department. It goes such a long way with the officers here to get that continuous support from the community, especially when so many departments across the country right now aren't necessarily getting that kind of support from their citizens. So really appreciate all the support that everybody has been giving us. It's a really big deal, and it makes what is a difficult job for the officers here a lot easier to do. So thanks to everybody for that. Great work. And with that, I will stop talking and roll down and start answering questions. Yeah, so Foot Patrol, Brandy. So that's really where this neighborhood policing concept comes from, right? Pre-automobiles, you had a beat officer. The officers walked the beat. In the early 70s, when the Barnegat Police Department started, it was a much smaller town, right? 73, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I think we had about 1,200 residents. So you could put an officer out on foot, and the officer had time to interact with people. And what we do as we get busier is we put the officers in cars, and cars just are a natural barrier, right? It just makes it difficult to talk, to stop. You're going from one place to another, and you know, the automobile was in some ways a good thing for law enforcement, and in some things it was a terrible thing for law enforcement. So the idea of that whole neighborhood policing concept is we're trying to get the benefits of Foot Patrol, which is much more intimate local knowledge, hyper-local knowledge of a neighborhood, getting them out of the car, getting into the businesses and talking to the business owners. Go have a cup of coffee and talk to the residents who are coming in there, and you know, find out, you know, what's new in the neighborhood, what are the problems we're having, what are things we can do to help, because at the end of the day, we have really smart cops here, and we have really talented people, and they're great problem solvers. So even if it's something that's not a typical police issue or law enforcement issue, if it's a neighborhood problem, they can help coordinate the fix to that. They can talk to code enforcement, they can work with public works, and they can leverage the other resources that we have as a community to help solve problems. And that's really, when you look at Foot Patrol, what the greatest benefit was of Foot Patrol. You knew who your local officer was, and we've kind of lost that with cars, so that's what we're trying to get back after. Election day, yeah, Charlotte. Election day. I'm gonna say that I'm sure it'll be interesting and entertaining for all of us. Officers at the schools in the morning are wonderful. Yeah, that's Tracy. Appreciate that. That's something that we started years ago. I actually just came to the Facebook Live from the school board meeting. We were doing the Upstander Awards there. we benefit from a great working relationship with Dr. Latwis and the school district, and that's another great example of where the officers are out and visible and can interact with the kids and the parents as you're dropping them off, even though we're trying to shoo you out of there quickly so we can keep the drop-off lines moving. So thanks for noticing that. So yeah, Renee, so let's tackle the speeding thing right now because it always comes up. Every Facebook Live I do, I would say of the emails I'll get that are problem based, somebody looking for help, so many times it has to do with speeding. So I think I talked about this before. We finally have it ordered and we'll hopefully be getting it in the next couple of weeks. But we were able to get a good laser traffic counter. So when we have these speeding complaints, we're going to be able to go set one of these devices up, and it's going to give us a whole bunch of data over a period of a couple of days that we leave it out there. So it's going to tell us what's the volume of traffic there, how fast is the traffic going, what's the average speed there. If we have a 25 mile an hour street and the average speed of cars going by is 28.3 miles an hour and it's low volume traffic, well, that's not going to get the same amount of resources from us as if somebody's telling us they're speeding on a 35 mile an hour street and we put the counter there and find out there's a ton of traffic and the average speed is 47 miles an hour. Frankly, we have to get smarter with how we police speeding because there's just simply too many roads in this town. Like we talked about, you're pushing up as we continue building developments here. We're pushing up towards 600. We'll be at 600 streets in town before long. 600 streets is a lot of streets to patrol. It's a lot of streets to monitor speeding on. So you bring the problem places to our attention will allow us to go get the data that we need to determine what resources get put where and at what time. Right? When is speeding a problem? So that's how we're going to try to address the speeding issues in a smarter, more precise way going forward. Yeah, Brandy, we're gonna try to participate in as many community events as we can. If there's a neighborhood watch in a particular neighborhood that the officer is working, those officers are going to be encouraged to participate in that, to identify who the community leaders are in that neighborhood. If it's one of our active adult communities and they have a clubhouse, being able to go in there and know who the liaisons are and the representatives. So again, we're facilitating, participating in any of the events that are going on. So yeah, we're going to be trying to get a much bigger footprint in the community events. Chris Anderson, I heard the call, but I do not know what the outcome was. Juvenile Conference Committee, Jerry, Detective Hetrick in the Detective Bureau is actually one of really the main officers that was involved in building out the juvenile programs that we have in the county. He's a high demand guy. He goes and speaks to a lot of the juvenile conferences. He's active at both the county and the state level. He's a real subject matter expert in that area. So yes, we very heavily participate in that, and we're lucky to have Detective Hetrick on board to do that. Barnegat Santa used to walk the beat. Herbie Bushy, yes he did. I grew up on Newark Road South, so I remember. Yeah, no, Julie, I know. I drive on Barnegat Boulevard, Barnegat Boulevard North. I see the people who seem to interpret 45 to mean 60. So, yep, we know there are speeding issues in a lot of places in town, and we're going to take a very focused approach to how we deal with that, so we can deal with the bigger problem areas with the right amount of resources, so we can try to get a better handle on that. That's something that we need to address. Christine, new construction, will there be another light? My understanding is no, there will not be another light. I personally would hate to see any more lights on West Bay Avenue. It already takes me about feels like 3 hours to drive up West Bay Avenue. So I will not be upset if there's not another traffic light there. I don't think there will be. We had spoken about you can imagine for the officers when they leave our headquarters parking lot and they have to make a left. That's a heck of a acrobatics act sometimes trying to get out of there. And we had approached the county inquiring about a light that we could use that we could just activate for emergencies when the officers need to get out of the lot here quickly. And we pretty much were told there's not going to be any more lights put up out there. So as far as I know, we won't be seeing another traffic light. Good question about people who want to, people in the beginning who wanted to drop off, food here, wanted to drop things off. We weren't accepting anything just as we were kind of getting our footing with everything going on with COVID. We've been accepting things. The community's been great here. Not just the community members, the businesses, Barlow, Marchione's. A lot of our local businesses have brought food in for the officers. It's really greatly appreciated. Again, it's an embarrassment of riches working in this town because I talked to you guys remember my stint almost a year ago down in Quantico. I still keep in touch with a lot of good friends I made there who work all across the country. And when I hear what they're going through and the difficulty that their officers are going through on a daily basis, the vitriol and invective that they're being subject to, the stuff's getting thrown at them, and they want to know how things are going here. And it's like we have to try to argue to buy a cup of coffee because the community wants to bring us food and coffee and wants to know what they can do for us. And this community couldn't be any better. And again, we're blessed to work here and have such a great supportive community. Makes a big difference. Yeah. So Kelly, talking about, are we still doing lead programs? We moved away from lead. We were doing DARE. Frankly, it's one of the things I looked at going back to before I was chief. When I was the patrol division commander, we simply ran into staffing challenges here years back where we couldn't dedicate somebody exclusively to that program. So at the time, Sheriff Mastronardi and the Sheriff's Department did us a huge solid, and the Sheriff's Department came in and taught that for us. One of the things we've done with looking at our community initiatives is looked at standing up our own in-house, DARE type program. So yes, that's on the board and in the works, and as we see how the year goes with COVID and the hybrid, we'll make a decision on that and look to make it happen. Robert, yeah, we can have them look at that for a no turn on red. All four corners, no turn on red. Yeah, Barney Boulevard in West Bay. Yeah, that's so. Again, traffic enforcement for us comes down to a couple of issues. One is just the sheer volume of streets and traffic that we have, and the other is, when the officers have a ton of responsibilities, right? Just beyond answering the calls, the paperwork associated with it, patrolling their districts. It's a challenge to put more time into traffic enforcement. Again, that's not your problem to solve, that's our problem to solve. And like I talked about, we're going to try taking a data-based approach to that to try to make it more effective. So we will definitely be looking at that. Can we address delays in firearms permits? Great question, Kevin. Yeah, so there's just a backup right now. As far as my understanding is, the backup is at the fingerprinting and at the state level for the criminal checks. I have never in my career seen as many firearms applications, handgun purchase permits come through as have come through, in the last 6-7 months. I believe we have right now close to 400 applications that are in various points of process right now. So again, for us, the choke point seems to be the fingerprinting and getting the criminal history check. In almost every case that I'm aware of, as I look at the electronic version of the files as they come through, typically that's the last piece of information to come in that we're waiting on. And I know generally we are processing and signing applications that were submitted back in May right now. So that's how backed up the state is on that. So we're cranking them out as fast as we can. I jump on the system just about every day. We make sure we sign out and move them out as fast as we can. But a lot of the delay and that choke point is coming through at the state level with the criminal history checks and the fingerprinting. So that's a great question. Yeah, people like to cut through the Walgreens parking lot. We like cutting through parking lots. I see it. I see it myself. Traffic lights are just brutal in this town. We all know it. Traveling up and down West Bay Avenue is a challenge, and I think sometimes people feel like, oh man, if I stop for this red, that's going to add 7 minutes to my drive because now I'm going to hit every light. And we get people start looking for parking lots to cut through. In New Jersey, using private property to avoid a traffic control device is a violation, and we do enforce that. I do see those tickets come through. Again, we're going to look at the traffic issues. We know that's a front burner issue for us as the traffic's come back up, as more people are going back to work. So we'll be on top of that. We'll be on top of that. Good to see you, Steve Tater. All right, we'll give her a second here, see if anybody's got any last minute questions before we go. That was a good quick session. We're ahead of our normal schedule. I'll just say it now before we sign off. We had been doing these almost weekly, then we pushed back to monthly. Kind of, unless there's something big going on, like tonight, really wanted to get this information about the neighborhood policing initiative and the precision policing initiative out there. We'll probably just look to do these quarterly, or if there are a lot of issues going on. So, and we'll make sure that we reach out when we have big issues. And otherwise, we'll touch base once a quarter. Sorry, I'm trying to think, talk, and read at the same time. Thanks, George, for the shout out to the officers for the car burglaries in Hampton Ridge. We say it all the time. I don't want to say I can't remember the last time, because it does on very rare occasions happen, but almost every car burglary we have, theft from the inside of a car in this town, is an unlocked car, right? Heroin addiction is still a big problem in Ocean County and in the state of New Jersey. And a real simple way for somebody to steal stuff is to just walk around in the middle of the night and pull on door handles and see what goodies you've left in the car for them to take and sell. So it's a double-edged sword. I get it. I grew up here. I never when I was 17. I lived on Newark Road South. My wallet, the keys, everything was left in the car with the windows down. I mean, I never locked my car. We didn't lock our house most of the time. The downside of us having a really safe town is we feel safe, and we don't think about things like, ooh, I got to lock my car door, or somebody might come at 2 a.m. and steal my laptop out of the back, or my my change out of the glove box. So you can help us out by locking the cars. Those car burglaries. When I say we have the lowest crime rate, we'd have an even lower crime rate if we get rid of those car burgs. So, but yeah, we'll definitely pass that around, George. Thank you. All right, looks good. Thanks everybody for participating. We'll shoot this up on YouTube tomorrow morning. Everybody stay safe, and we'll see you maybe in a couple months. All right, thanks.